Oh, yeah, for the thing. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for your patience. Excuse us for the lateness. Alhamdulillah, we have only a limited amount of time. We have a lot to cover, so inshallah the Sheikh will be briefly going through the points of today's lecture. We're going to continue from last week, coming off of the divorce topic into the rights that that the baby has if there is a baby involved. With regards to we talked about child support, we talked about the weaning, the breastfeeding. So inshallah we're going to get right into those things today. Bi'idhnillah. Again, it is a bit technical, so inshallah brace yourselves, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the proper understanding. Inshallah, we ask the Sheikh to please begin with the recitation of the page of today.
والوالدات يرضعن أولادهن حولين كاملين لمن أراد أن يتم الرضاعة وعلى المولود له رزقهن وكسوتهن بالمعروف لا تكلف نفس إلا وسعها لا تضار والدة بولدها ولا مولود له بولده وعلى الوارث مثل ذلك فإن أرادا فصالا عن تراض منهما وتشاور فلا جناح عليهما وإن أردتم أن تسترضعوا أولادكم فلا جناح عليكم إذا سلمتم ما آتيتم بالمعروف واتقوا الله واعلموا أن الله بما تعملون بصير والذين يتوفون منكم ويذرون أزواجا يتربصن بأنفسهن 4 أشهر وعشرا فإذا بلغن أجلهن فلا جناح عليكم فيما فعلن في أنفسهن بالمعروف والله بما تعملون خبير ولا جناح عليكم فيما عرضتم به من خطبة النساء أو أكننتم في أنفسكم علم الله أنكم ستذكرونهن ولكن لا تواعدوهن سرا إلا أن تقولوا قولا معروفا ولا تعزموا عقدة النكاح حتى يبلغ الكتاب أجله واعلموا أن الله يعلم ما في أنفسكم فاحذروه واعلموا أن الله غفور حليم.
Barakallah feekum, Sheikhna. May Allah reward you and bless you. We want to get right into it, Sheikhna. This first verse that you recited, the translation is, divorced mothers will breastfeed their offspring for 2 whole years. For those who wish to complete the nursing of their child, the child's father will provide reasonable maintenance and clothing for the mother during that period. No one will be charged with more than they can bear. No mother or father should be made to suffer for their child. The father's heirs are under the same obligation. But if both sides decide after mutual consultation and consent to wean a child, then there is no blame on them. If you decide to have your children nursed by a wet nurse, it is permissible as long as you pay fairly. Be mindful of Allah and know that Allah is all seeing of what you do. So inshallah, long ayah here, Sheikh, and talking about in the case of if there's a child now between the divorced spouses, what shall happen in this case? We talked about child support, and we said that is there something equivalent in the Islamic, teachings? So could you elaborate and explain how this ayah secures the right of the child?
Okay, بعد الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Inshallah, today we're gonna get and talk about the headlines of these ayahs, and inshallah in the next quarter, the next robe, inshallah Rabbi Ameen. Our goal to finish Surah Al-Baqarah next week, inshallah. بإذن الله رب العالمين. الله يتقبل منا ومنكم يا رب. اللهم آمين. So this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about والوالدات, the mothers, and according to the majority of ulama, this ayah talks about the divorced women. So the rules here, the rules of the divorce. Okay? Some of them said even including the rules of marriage before the divorce. And for example, should I pay for my wife for nursing and breastfeeding my child while she's my wife, or should I pay for her after divorce? If she is divorced, should I pay for her before or after? What do you think? For breastfeeding, for nursing my child, should I pay for her before divorce or after? If she is my wife, is normal, should I pay?
So you're saying, Sheikh, is she entitled to an allowance while she's my wife to breastfeed my child?
She asked for the money. Allah said in Quran, والوالدات يرضعن أولادهن حولين كاملين إلى آخر الآيات, etc. So he talks about paying for the women, those who breastfeeding your kids. She said, I need money while she is breastfeeding. And she's your wife. We're not talking about the rules of the divorce now. Okay? What do you think? He should pay? So according to some of scholars, they said yes, he has to pay. But the majority for her, yes, for his wife. Before, there is no divorce at all. She's your wife. She said, I need money. You should pay for me. And I'm sorry to say that the women are happy now. Her baby, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in this ayah, your baby. وعلى المولود له فهو ينسب لك ولا ينسب إليها. Okay? ينسب لك ولا ينسب إليها. He relates to you. He takes your name, not her name. احنا بنتكلم على كده مش حاجة تانية. Anyway, so the majority of ulama said these rules are the rules of divorce. And she has right to ask for money only if she is divorced. Okay? Some of them said even during the nikah and zawaj, she can ask for money. I'm giving you the different opinions just to know. If she takes the other opinion and says that to you, so you can argue with her. Say this is not the opinion of the majority of ulama, at least.
The woman is divorced, she leaves the baby and she run away.
Yeah.
See the baby for 2 years.
So let us take the headlines from this ayah. على الرجل أن ينفق على زوجته أثناء الرضاعة. So he has to pay and to spend money for her, whether she is divorced or not. If she is breastfeeding, he has to spend money. If she is your wife, you have to spend anyway. If she is divorced, you have to spend. Okay? But I'm talking about the spending money for her, whether she is breastfeeding or not. That's mandatory upon you, right? You has to pay for her or to spend money for her. If she's divorced, you have to spend for the breastfeeding and for your kids and for her custody. For 3, you have, Islamically, you have to pay for all these things. If she, for example, you have to rent a house, to get a house for her and for your kids, and to pay for her the rent of the house, and to pay for money for breastfeeding, just breastfeeding itself. Okay? If she has right to say no. She has right to say no, I will not breastfeed your kid. If that decision will not hurt the child. You have another woman, and you can get a nurse child to breastfeed your kids. لا يجوز إلحاق الضرر بالطفل بأي حال. Anyway, you cannot cause harm for the kid. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لا تضار والدة بولدها ولا مولود له بولده. Don't use your child as a weapon between you. Okay? Make sure you give the rights of the child before anything. So it's not lawful for the man or woman to use the kid as a weapon between both of them. تمام الرضاع حولين كاملين وهذه فترة التحريم عند الجمهور. The period of breastfeeding is the first 2 years. Only the first 2 years, according to the majority of ulama. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَالْوَالِدَاتُ يُرْضِعْنَ أَوْلَادَهُنَّ حَوْلَيْنِ كَامِلَيْنِ. The mother breastfeeding their kids for 2 years, the whole 2 years. لمن أراد أن يتم الرضاعة, for whoever who wants to complete the breastfeeding period. The majority of ulama take from this ayah, this benefit, this lesson, this dars, which is, if a woman breastfeeds a child, a foreign woman, okay, breastfeeds a child after 2 years, do we consider her as his mom? After 2 years. Is it a valid breastfeeding or not? According to the majority of ulama, this is invalid breastfeeding. And it's okay to breastfeed him, but you're not his mother, and your children are not his brothers. That's according to the majority of ulama.
So we can infer the opposite, that if they were to breastfeed them within the first 2 years,
yes, of course, she's his
then
mom.
and then there will be siblings who breastfeed.
Exactly like his mom. So she's going to be his mom, and her children are going to be brothers and sisters. Yes.
So what if they change the woman that breastfeeds?
If he can get or has many mother. Yes, all of them. Yes, and their kids, all of them, they're gonna be yes, yes, of course. الفطام يكون بالتشاور. So weaning should be by consolation. They have to discuss with each other. Should we complete breastfeeding for 2 years or just 1 year and a half? Look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said should be by discussing between the spouses to take this decision. What about the other decisions or the other orders? لا حرج في استئجار مرضعة للولد عند وجود سبب. So there is no blame at all. It's okay to get a nurse to breastfeed your brother, your kid. Sorry. عدة المتوفى عنها زوجها 4 أشهر. That's the next ayah. Do you have any question in this ayah? Yes, that's their decision. Yes,
They could
their
end it
decision.
early.
Yes,
They
of
want.
course.
They could end the breastfeeding term 1 year. Yeah.
Do you have any question regarding this ayah?
If a child breastfeeds from a different woman than his mom, all her kids will be his brother and sister,
Of course.
or the one he's breastfeeding the same time?
The same time, how?
Like he's breastfeeding from this woman,
Okay.
and she have another baby, her own baby. That's what.
This woman, right? Just listen. If a woman breastfeeds 100 kids, all of them, they are brothers and sisters. All of them. Include her own kids and the other kids.
All her kids.
All her kids. Not at the same time. I got it. His question. I got it. He's talking about, and that's come between people, and that's wrong. Some people, they said, the only one who is going to be your brother, the one who is breastfeeding at the same time with you. And that's wrong. All her kids are going to be his brothers and sisters. Of course. And that's يحرم من الرضاعة ما يحرم من النسب. They are the same. Exactly like his brothers and sisters. His own brothers and sisters. The same. And how many times? No, there is no mirath, no inheritance. Some ulama said it's 5 times. Some of them said it's 10 times. Some of them said it's only 1 time. The majority of ulama said it should be 5 times. And some of them said even 1 time. She is your sister. 1 time. So if you have been told that before marriage, you and this girl breastfeeded from the same women, but just 1 time. So please be away from her. Because according to some ulama, she is your sister. Okay?
This could be a good solution for the foster parents who taking a baby. If they breastfeed, they don't have to worry about when the kid gets older to be with her real kids.
Yes, of course. Any question regarding what is that? Okay, the next ayah.
Next ayah, Sheikh, the translation. As for those of you who die and leave widows behind, let them observe a waiting period of 4 months and 10 days. When they have reached the end of this period, then you are not accountable for what they decide for themselves in a reasonable manner. And Allah is all aware of what you do. Mm-hmm. So here, the case of someone dies and leaves a widow behind, could you elaborate on this ayah?
Okay. The summary is عدة المتوفى عنها زوجها 4 أشهر و10 أيام. So the period, times, or the waiting period for a woman after her husband, when he passed away, she has to stay 4 months and 10 days. 4 months and 10 days. She cannot marry during this time, not even engagement. She cannot adorning herself or to put perfume or something like that. For 4, and she has no right to be outside the home, okay, without reason. If she has a reason, it's okay, she can go outside and come back. But she has to stay at night, at least she has to stay at night in her home. And that's for the woman that she is not pregnant. If she is pregnant, once she gives birth, her waiting period is done. Even 1 day after her husband died. Even 1 day. So for a pregnant woman, whether they are divorced or they are widow, their waiting period is to give birth. Got it? That's it in this ayah. The next
ayah, Sheikh. There is no blame on you for subtly showing interest in divorced or widowed women or for hiding the intention in your hearts. Allah knows that you are considering them for marriage, but do not make a secret commitment with them. You can only show interest in them appropriately. Do not commit to the bound of marriage until the waiting period expires. Know that Allah is aware of what is in your hearts, so beware of Him, and know that Allah is all forgiving, most forbearing. So here, is it talking about, for example, like in the Sahaba time, they knew a woman, her husband had just passed away, and they want to show interest. There's no issue with that. They can go ahead and...
Even nowadays?
Even nowadays, yeah.
Yes. You can show interest, but indirectly. Don't make it direct. Don't say during the wedding period, during the iddah, it's not allowed to say to her, Inshallah, I'll marry you, or I'm waiting for you. That's haram. To make it clearly, that's haram. During the iddah, whether she is divorced or not, or widow, you can say only, don't worry, you are a righteous woman. And it could be some people who are waiting for you, something like that. You can say it.
Could you send someone to tell her?
No. You can send someone to say there is someone is waiting for you or something like that. But you cannot say it directly, yes. That's haram, of course. وإذا طلق الرجل امرأته قبل الدخول. This is the next ayah. And that's only the thing in this ayah. And if you have any question regarding the ayahs, just let us know, please.
Yeah. The next ayah, Sheikh, there's no blame if you divorce women before the marriage is consummated or the dowry is settled, but give them a suitable compensation, the rich according to his means and the poor according to his. A reasonable compensation is an obligation on the good doers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's continuing the point we just mentioned here. Any additional points for this ayah?
For this ayah, وإذا طلقتم النساء لو أن رجلا طلق زوجته قبل الدخول, if some people or a man divorce his wife before touching her, before making intercourse with her, for الدخول, just they make contract and he divorced her. We're talking about her rights now. If they announce the dowry and the dowry is known, for example, it's 1,000, she has right to take the half of it, the half of her dowry, and the other half for the husband. Okay? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said for both of them, that's better to leave it, all of it, for whether the woman or the man. And another thing is, another right, yes, for iddah, for the waiting period. How many days should she stay? How many days or how many months? 4 months? If he divorced her before touching her, before dukhula. We're talking about iddah. Tell me about her iddah now. You're right. There is no iddah at all. There is no iddah at all. She can marry in the same day. Or he said that, mashallah. Good. You deliver the message. Okay. So there is no iddah at all for the woman who get divorced before making intercourse, or before touching her, or before being alone. Because some ulama said, what ad-dukhul means. Making the contract, we understand that. But what ad-dukhul means, if they stay alone, just stay alone in the house, do we consider that iddah? Or they should make intercourse? That's according to the Shafi'i madhab. According to the majority of ulama, they said once they are alone, that's it. So according to the majority of ulama, she deserves the whole dowry. If you stay alone with her, without making anything with her, if you just stay alone.
She deserves the whole dowry?
Yeah, for example, someone, they make or they celebrate their widow and they went to their home, they spent 1 week together, but they didn't make intercourse. Do we consider that dukhla? Dukhul? According to the majority of ulama, yes, we consider it. According to Imam al-Shafi'i, yes, and I chose this opinion, they have to make intercourse. Yes, and can you imagine he gave her the whole dowry and he didn't do anything. Yeah.
Then does she have to wait for their head down? What is the proof that if they have a need
The same. That's it. The same. According to Shafi'i madhab, there is no iddah.
Let's assume that still they have, you said that they
Well, according to Shafi'i madhab, الدخول means making intercourse. If she doesn't make intercourse with him, there is no iddah at all. Okay? According to the majority of ulama, no, she has iddah. Okay?
So that's the ayah, Sheikh. It says, and if you divorce them before consummating the marriage, but after deciding on a dowry, pay half of the dowry, unless the wife graciously waives it or the husband graciously pays in full. Graciousness is closer to righteousness, and do not forget kindness among yourselves. Surely Allah is all seeing of what you do.
That's what we explained.
The next ayah, Sheikh, it says, and it switches the subject now. حافظوا على الصلوات والصلاة الوسطى وقوموا لله قانتين. Observe the 5 obligatory prayers, especially the middle prayers, and stand in true devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is this a connection here or just random?
Well, what I see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the connection between people with each other and the connection between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If they fear Allah Azza wa Jal, if they maintain their salah, everything will be easy. Right? But if they are away from salah, if they don't give Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala his rights, don't expect them to give the rights of each other.
What is so special about the middle prayer, Sheikh? It says especially in the middle prayer.
Okay, the middle prayer or the middle salah, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself explained that. In the Battle of Al-Ahzab, he missed Salat al-Asr sallallahu alaihi wasallam before legislating the Salah of al-Khawf, the Salah of the fear. Before legislating that, he missed the Salah. And because of that, he got mad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He made dua against the disbelievers and said, مَلَأَ اللَّهُ قُلُوبَهُمْ نَارًا مَلَأَ اللَّهُ بُيُوتَهُمْ نَارًا. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala burn their houses. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala burn their hearts. شغلونا عن الصلاة الوسطى صلاة العصر. We couldn't pray the middle salah. So the middle salah, he said sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the middle salah is salat al-asr. And a lot of hadith that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam talked about salat al-asr and the reward of salat al-asr. He said sallallahu alaihi wasallam, من صلى البردين دخل الجنة. Whoever prays salat al-fajr and salat al-asr, just salat al-fajr and salat al-asr, he deserves Jannah. And many hadith he said sallallahu alaihi wasallam talking about the punishment of leaving the middle salah. In Sahih al-Bukhari he said sallallahu alaihi wasallam من ترك صلاة العصر فكأنما وتر أهله وماله. Whoever leaves Salat al-Asr or missed Salat al-Asr, his calamity is worse than the one who lost his wealth and his family. His calamity is worse than the one who lost his kids and his wealth and his family, everything. Another hadith in Sahih Bukhari too, he said sallallahu alaihi wasallam, من ترك صلاة العصر فقد حبط عمله. Whoever missed Salat al-Asr, and we are talking about without reason, just out of laziness. Whoever left Salat al-Asr, all his good deeds will be lost. So,
Imagine those who leave all the prayers.
Allahu Akbar. And he said sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the one who performs Salat al-Asr before sunset, just he's waiting for the sunset to pray Salat al-Asr. And 2 minutes before Maghrib, he prayed. He prayed Salat al-Asr. He said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is the salah of the hypocrites. This is one of the signs of the hypocrites. What about the one who doesn't pray at all? Because of that, look, subhanAllah, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala compared between divorced and salah. I don't advise anyone to marry off a man who doesn't pray. If you have a daughter and someone comes to you and you see a good man, mashallah, and he's rich and he's educated person, say whatever you want about him. But he doesn't pray. So please don't marry your daughter off to him. Because he doesn't respect the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over him. Do you expect him to respect your rights or the rights of your daughter? And the same with the women. Some people, they just look at the beauty of the woman. She is beautiful and that's enough. But she doesn't pray. Insha'Allah, Allah will guide her. Don't worry. So after the marriage, he cannot do anything. And he figured it out. It was a crime. He did a crime against himself. Okay.
And then the ayah, Sheikh, after that, ayah 239. If you are in danger, pray on foot or while riding. But when you are safe, take time to remember Allah for teaching you what you did not know. So this is the context of Al-Ahzab.
So after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala legislated the Salat al-Khawf. And he said in the beginning, حافظوا على الصلاة والصلاة الوسطى وقوموا لله قانتين. You have to pray in khushu'. In khushu'. But if you are in danger, just to pray without khushu'. And we said before, every time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned salah, he said, أقيموا الصلاة. أقيموا الصلاة. يعني make it perfect. Except in the time of fear. He said, فإذا وإذا كنت فيهم فأقمت لهم الصلاة فلتقم طائفة منهم معك وليأخذوا أسلحتهم إلى آخر الآيات ولتأتي طائفة أخرى لم يصلوا فليصلوا معك. Just pray. He didn't say أقيموا الصلاة. Pray, just pray. Then he said after that فإذا اطمأننتم فأقيموا الصلاة. When you are safe, أقيموا الصلاة. Perform salah, perfect your salah. But in the time of fear, and this is the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over us, in the time of fear, He doesn't ask us to make it perfect or to have khushu'. While some people are waiting for me to kill me. In this case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, khalas, there is no need for khushu', just perform it, just establish it. And nowadays, without fear, without anything, we don't have khushu'. Right? We just pray without khushu'. Yani our salah that we pray, it should be only when we are in danger. May Allah forgive us.
The next ayah, Sheikh, those of you who die leaving widows should bequeath for them a year's maintenance without forcing them out. But if they choose to leave, you are not accountable for what they reasonably decide for themselves. And Allah is Almighty, All-Wise.
Okay, the majority of ulama said this ayah is an abrogated ayah. Abrogated by the ayah before. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said the iddah for the widow should be 4 months and 10 days, right? But here in this ayah he said 1 year. So according to the majority of ulama said in the beginning it was 1 year. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it light and legislated just 1 year for the iddah. That's according to the majority of ulama. I don't want to take about more details about this ayah.
So Sheikh, just a clarification. This ayah is talking about if someone were to die, correct? He should have maintenance for them for 4 months and 10 days, correct?
Someone is about to die?
It says here, those of
Yes,
you who
yes.
die leaving widows. But no one can know when they die. So basically,
It
prepare.
talks about the will. So in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the man before death. He can make a will to the inheritors, not to drive his wives out of their home for 1 year. So some ulama said, those who said it's an abrogated ayah, they said it means iddah. And those who said, no, it doesn't talk about iddah. It talks about the will. So he has right to ask her in his inheritors to keep his wife for 1 year. 1 year as a iddah for her. He can ask for that. Just stay 1 year in my home. Don't drive her out of my home. And spend for her from my money for 1 year. So it talks about iddah for 1 year, staying at the same home for 1 year, and money. If she wants to stay for 1 year, who's going to spend and to pay for her? According to those who said, the ulama, those who said it's not an abrogated ayah, like Sheikh Ibn Taymiyyah, he said it's not an abrogated ayah. They said she deserves money for 1 year. from his wealth for 1 year. That's his nafaqah during the iddah. Okay, that's two opinions.
This is aside from the child's inheritance that he's going to get automatically.
It doesn't talk about child.
Yeah, this is just for
It
the
talks
woman.
only about women. Yes, she has right to stay for 1 year in his home. No one has, if he said that, if he made it as a will, no one has right to drive her out of the home or the house, and they have to pay for her.
And if he didn't put it in the will, maybe he didn't have a will, can the woman
Yes.
request it by
Yes,
the courts?
according to those who said it's not abrogated ayah.
Okay.
Okay.
Her husband died. Does she have to stay in her husband's house
Yes, yes.
to her?
No, she has to stay in manzil al-zawjiyya, yes. She has to stay in the same house that she was with her husband. Yes. Except for sometimes, for some reason, we need someone to protect her. She is in danger in this home or something like that. But for normal situation, she has to stay. Yes.
The next ayah, Sheikh, reasonable provisions must be made for divorced women, a duty on those mindful of Allah. I think we discussed that one already.
Let's talk about the mut'ah, spending money for her. Okay. We already talked about that. But he said حقا سبحانه وتعالى حقا على المتقين. حقا, is it mandatory or not? If someone divorced his wife, does he has to spend money for her or to give her mut'ah, something called mut'ah, okay, which is spending money for her during the waiting period. He has to spend money during the waiting period, whether it's 3 months or 3 menstruation cycle. Some ulama said it's mandatory. Some of them said it's optional. It's not mandatory. Okay.
The next ayah, Sheikh, this is how Allah makes His revelations clear to you, so perhaps you will understand. Self-explanatory.
Yes, well, the next story about the story of the Israelites. Let us take it.
Let's take it? Okay, inshallah. So here in this particular section, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, have you, O Prophet, not seen those who fled their homes in the thousands for fear of death? Allah said to them, die. Then He gave them life. Surely Allah is ever bountiful to humanity, but most people are ungrateful. What is this story talking about, Sheikh?
It talks about a group of the Israelites. They went out of their homes and their cities, fearing of disease, pandemic, or some enemies. Some ulama said they went out because they were scared of the disease or the enemies. Yani at the end of the day, they are scared of death. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, okay, you are scared of death, die. So all of them, they die. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revived them again, and they lived after that. It's a story and subhanAllah, we mentioned that before. In Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about similar situation that happened to the Israelites. Many times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused them to die and revive them again. Many times. Give me some situations or some stories. This is one of them. Those who went out of fear, or fear of death. الذي مر على قرية. تمام. This is, we're going to talk about that. Or the one who, inshallah, next class, inshallah, we're going to talk about it. Huh? أصحاب الكهف. Okay, أصحاب الكهف. But we're talking about Surah Al-Baqarah. We mentioned many stories just in Surah Al-Baqarah.
70 leaders, right?
Yes. 70. The 70 leaders of the Israelites. Give me more. That's the 70 leaders. The story of Al-Baqarah. All right. Huh? The story of the cow. One more situation. Yes. Yes, those who said we will not believe you until we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's a situation. It's the story of the 70 leaders of the Israelites with the cow. And the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. The story of the one who passed by the village. And this story. 5 situations, 5 stories just in Surah Al-Baqarah. And all of it are the signs from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay.
Just one point, Sheikh, on this particular ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَذُو فَضْلٍ عَلَى النَّاسِ, that Allah is ever bountiful to humanity, but most people are ungrateful. Is there a connection between this and the fact that they're afraid of death, but Allah is giving them an opportunity for something?
Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused them to die and He revived them again. It's a bigger and big favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah.
Of course.
It can also be
You have
understood.
another chance and you saw the death. Can you imagine the situation?
Could it also be understood as when Allah gives you a test, whether it be to fight an enemy or whether it be any other test, that if you just hold on, there is much good in it for you rather than run and being afraid of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting in front of you. Could it be understood like that?
To run from the enemies?
No, to run from a test, whether it be an enemy to fight, it may be perhaps that you get your sins forgiven.
No, sometimes you have to run.
Sometimes
You have to run.
Yeah.
أحسنت.
Egyptian saying that.
Sometimes.
Why I say
For
that?
example, like pandemic. We mentioned pandemic, and some ulama said they went out of fear of the pandemic. But there is a hadith, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that if you are in a village, yes, and there is pandemic in this village, don't get out of this village. And if you are out, don't enter. So if you are out, you have to run. In this case, you have to run. Who has to run?
The people outside of
Yes,
the
the one who is outside.
Yeah. And
New York Times, when Corona started, they say you should implement the Muslim rules in the village and don't come in, don't go out.
Wallah, they said that.
New York Times.
Yes, mashallah.
If you Google it, you will find it.
Yes. Is it the one that you sent it to me?
One researcher in one of the Midwest university,
Mashallah.
he said you should implement the Muslim rules on the Corona.
Alhamdulillah. Okay.
Allah. And the reason I say that is because the next ayah, Sheikh, it says, وَقَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, and fight in the way of Allah, and know that Allah is all hearing, all knowing. So,
They say Prophet Muhammad, actually. They don't say Muslim rule, they say Prophet Muhammad.
Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, alayhi wa sallam.
Tamam.
So here the next ayah is saying, fight in the way of Allah.
Yes, because fighting sometimes it's mandatory. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to talk about fighting. He's talking about jihad after that. And at the end he will say ولولا دفع الله الناس بعضهم ببعض لفسدت الأرض. It's the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon the human being that He legislated jihad. So to make balance between people. And nowadays you see, no one can claim that he is the best or يعني he has the absolute power. He can do whatever he wants. For example, look at America and the power of America. But still they respect the other powers like Russia, like Chinese. And all of them, they are afraid of each other. Still, they are the enemies of each other, as we see. But still, يعني زي تقول بيعملوا حساب لبعض يعني.
There's a system of check and balance.
Yes.
No one can over transgress too much, or else he'll be met with another force.
That's
So here, fight in the cause of Allah and know that Allah is all hearing, all knowing. Then who will lend to Allah a good loan, which Allah will multiply many times over? It is Allah alone who decreases and increases wealth, and to Him you will all be returned.
So during jihad, we have to make jihad by ourselves and by our money. Because of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned money. Jihad, that's the jihad al-nafs. Jihad al-nafs. Before talking about the jihad of the power of the bodies. Because the next story, which is an amazing story, talks about the group of the Israelites, those who asked their king, or those who asked for their prophets to send, or to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send a king and a leader for them. And after that, they rejected the choice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they said, no, he has no power at all, he has no money at all, he is not among the nobles people, so he cannot be our king. So they refused what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose. Then he said, that's the choice of Allah Azza wa Jal. That's the choice of Allah. You have to show respect for the choice of Allah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose him because he has more knowledge than you and more power physically more than you. He became their king, and the prophet said the sign of his kingship is to see the ark or the box that are carried by angels. They will bring it to you, and in this box and this ark, the tranquility and some of Torah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave it, the alwah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave it to Musa alayhi salam. You will see that. And some of the properties of Harun and some of the properties of Musa, you will see it. That's the sign of his kingship. And he became the king. And he asked them to struggle for themselves before struggling for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. Struggle yourself first. Inna Allah mubtalikum binahar. It's a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's a river. And they were thirsty. He said, if some of you drink more than full of hand, just one hand, they have no right to come with me. Go back. And those who do not taste it, they will come with me, and it's okay to take just one full hand. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَشَرِبُوا مِنْهُ. All of them, they drank from it, except a few. He said to all of them, be away from me, I just need you, those who didn't drink from it. You might say, in this case, we need more people to fight. But look at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted us to take from this story, to consider the quality, not the quantity. Quality, not the quantity. From this story. Ahsan. So they went with him, and now you can see there were many in the beginning, and some of them rejected Talut to be their king. Then some of them, those who agree with that, when they passed by the river, most of them, they failed in the exam. Now you see, those who passed all of these tests, when they saw Jalut and his soldiers, they said, we have no power at all to fight him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قَالَ الَّذِينَ يَظُنُّونَ. Among them, few of them, those who said, no. كم من فئة قليلة غلبت فئة كثيرة بإذن الله. How many small company, those who defeated or has overcome a large company or a big company by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't fight, we don't make jihad by ourselves. We make jihad by the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is supporting us by the permission of Allah. Look at Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. in all his battles, I don't want to mention specific battles, all his battles, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, they were less in numbers than their enemies. All his battles. And even his companions, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, after him. Sometimes, like the battle of Mu'tah, they were 3,000, and the enemies, they were 200,000. Can you imagine that? And that happened many, many times in history. So we don't struggle for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by our power, but by the help and the support of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And at the end, when they said that, قال الذين يظنون أنهم ملاقوا الله كم من فئة قليلة غلبت فئة كثيرة بإذن الله والله مع الصابرين. Allah is with the patience. ولما برزوا لجالوت وجنوده قالوا ربنا أفرغ علينا صبرا. When they saw Jalut and his soldiers, they said, Oh Allah, pour over us patience. وثبت أقدامنا, make our feet firm on the battlefield. وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين, grant us victory, and they overcome them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said فهزموهم بإذن الله. Yes, they has overcome them by the permission of Allah. That's it. فهزموهم بإذن الله وقتل داود جالوت. For the first time Allah mentioned Dawood. He was talking about the Talut and Jalut and the Prophet, and for all of a sudden he said Dawood. Dawood was one of the soldiers of Talut, and he is the one who killed Jalut, and he became the king after Talut, and he became a prophet, and he was an educated person. He was a strong person. Allah blessed Dawood alayhi salam. And he is one of the most beloved people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the most beloved prophets to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you want to understand that, look at Adam alayhi salam. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed him all his offspring, and he looked at all of us, me and you and the prophets and the companions, all of them, he chose one to ask about. Just one, which is Dawood alayhi salam. He said, Oh Allah, who is this man? Anwar, Azhar, light. He said, that's your son Dawood. He's a prophet. And he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for how many years he will live. He said, for 60 years. He said, that's just 60 years? No, increase him. He said, no, that's what I said. If you want me to increase him, I'm going to increase him from your age, from your years. He said, it's okay. Give him 4 years. I have 1,000. Give him 4 years. He said, okay. The angels, are your witnesses for that? They said, yes. Okay, give him. They made a contract. And after almost 1,000, except 4 years, the angel of death came to Adam alayhi salam and said, come to your Lord. He said, no, still have 4 years. Yes, he forgot. He said, you gave it to your son Dawood. Dawood? Who is Dawood? I didn't give anyone anything. This is my 4 years and I need it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala show him the contract. That's it. That's the contract that you made, but it's okay. I increase him from from me, not from you. Yes. Prophet Muhammad said, فَنَسِيَ آدَمْ فَنَسِيَتْ ذُرِّيَّتُهُ. Adam forgot and we forgot after Adam alayhi salam. We are human beings. Subhanallah, you don't blame Adam alayhi salam. You might forget what you ate yesterday, right? Just yesterday. Do you want Adam alayhi salam to remember something from almost 1,000 years? So that's it. وقتل داود جالوت وأتاه الله الملك والحكمة وعلمه ما يشاء. That was the story. Do you have any question about this story? I said some ulama said it was because of the disease, and some of them said Allah did not mention. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, خرجوا من ديارهم حذر الموت. They are afraid of death. But what is the reason behind? Allah did not mention that. Some ulama, they made their ijtihad and they said out of pandemic or enemies.
Or he just said enemies was the other one, which is fighting.
Both, yeah?
So yeah, both were presented.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any question? Alhamdulillah, we just left 2 quarters, 2 ربع. We're going to finish the surah, inshallah. Are we going to make it this week, another one? Wednesday? Mm-hmm. طيب خلاص إن شاء الله next week we're going to make our best to end it إن شاء الله رب العالمين. But we're going to make it يعني longer than it is. Mm-hmm. خلاص try to invite all people please.
We could send a message out.
Yes. إن شاء الله we're going to spend from Maghrib to Isha. إن شاء الله. If we have time, we're going to just give some of it after Isha. But next week, we should finish it, inshallah.
Sheikh, this is the last part of the last ayah you mentioned. ولولا دفع الله للناس بعضهم لبعض لفسدت الأرض ولكن الله ذو فضل على العالمين. Had not Allah repelled a group of people by the might of another, corruption would have dominated the earth.
No.
You mentioned that
And that's what I explained, yes.
Yeah,
any other question? جزاكم الله خير. اللهم إنا نسألك بأسمائك الحسنى وصفاتك العلى يا رب العالمين أن ترحمنا أجمعين وأن تغفر لنا أجمعين وأن تهب المسيئين منا للمحسنين. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما جهلنا وزدنا اللهم علما واستخدمنا لنصرة دينك ولا تستبدلنا. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. جزاكم يا حبيبي.
No Wednesday. Next week we're going to finish it, inshallah.
I was company should pay me today. Yeah. I was company all day long. Hamad. Today. I fixed something and the 3 o'clock. He was a lonely man. Come on. I was picnic there. You were here the whole time? Not It's about to start. Next week we're going to finish with You're going to come to the picnic today, but they had a picnic there too. They had a picnic in the Arif and the shed, today? Yeah, today also. So I was like, okay, I got to turn down when it comes out. How are you? How's everything? Good. Next week, come on. Inshallah. Yeah, because Sheikh will be hopefully with us. I don't think so. بالتوفيق تروحوا عند البيت ولا في الرفض؟ مين؟ عمار دائما بيحب بيته. يعني كان عايز يتوضا، انا قلت له تعال انا مش ساكن بعيد، انا ساكن على 16 على طول. It's like my father-in-law. Same place 40 years. In the Heights apartment. It doesn't move. Maybe a little bit here and there, but they have to go
لك
back.
يا شيخ كيف الحال؟ هل تريد شيئا من مصر؟ من الحج مسافرة يوم 9 جولاي إن شاء الله.
كأنه هو مش من مصر يعني يقولوا you need something from Egypt as if he's not an Egyptian.
يعني لو
يعني هو عايز حاجة يعني على السريع كده يعني.
لا لسه جولاي 9 جولاي 9 نعطيه له فرصة يعني.
انت بتقول لي قبلها بشهر ولا بشهرين خلاص ابدا اكتر شهور لكن قبلها باسبوع يوم ما ولا اسمع اي خبر.
يعني هذا نمبر لو حطيت ابو الخير الزخم على جوجل هيطلع العنوان والتليفون.
We know that you are very popular man.
بيطلع الشغل يطلع الشغل والعنوان والتليفون.
والله ربنا ان شاء الله يسعدك. شكرا.
اولادي كانوا بيعوموا بالسباحه في احوار الطريق. Karim is going to Vanderbilt.
Oh, you told me he was one of those students, right?
Well, at the reactor site.
Oh, Proactor. I remember the story.
Yeah, reactor.
That's true. Doesn't bother here. We pray here or here?
No, no, not here.
We don't pray here.
No, no, no.
We don't. It's
No,
not
no,
bothering
that's
us.
okay. Oh, actually, that's be okay.
And this one. We will move this one. Oh, this one.
Yeah, back you take. Let me check how much time we do today. Oh, 13,000. I walk 2 miles at home on a treadmill. Yeah, 2 miles treadmill. तो फिर आधा घंटा साइकिल 10,000 रुपये की हो जाता नहीं आज ट्रेडमिल नहीं की थी आज पार्क में जाके की वो 2 मील पड़ जाते 8 चक्कर ये ना ग्राउंड में 8 चक्कर ये 2 मील पड़ हाँ लेकिन थकावट नहीं है क्योंकि ईश्वर के बाद बहुत लेट हो जाता 10:30 सवेरे जाने जापान भी आराम हाँ बल्कि सवेरे मंडे है मंडे तो मैं 2:30 बजे उठ गया उधर खड़ा होता ना मंडे तो थर्सडे वो 2:30 बजे उठ के पहले नफा शफा पढ़ के टाइम चाहिए खाना
him, are you good? You tell him what do you mean good Muslim? You pray? Not just, didn't ask about the praying, he asked about the behavior. Because he said some people is Muslim, but the behavior is not good. He said behavior like what? He said if you party, you drink, you clean, yeah. That, you cannot ask if you pray or not. He said yes. I don't know, but he said he doesn't drink, he doesn't, his behavior is good. Finish it. If your behavior is good, you're doing good job. Even if you don't pray, Al-Islam, remember Friday? Salah can go after how many years? Salah without akhlaq is no good. من لم تنهاه صلاته عن الفحشاء والمنكر فلا صلاة. Understand? Your salah doesn't keep you away from wrongdoing. Salah qarban. You know qarban? Slang language. Qarban is when you're not good. Your salat, like you must have the weight and measure. الكيل والميزان. Understand? الكيل والميزان. You understand the الكيل والميزان. الكيل والميزان. سورة الرحمن. وأوفوا الكيل والميزان. الكيل الويت الميزان الويت. الكيل الميزان. ويل للمطففين الذين إذا اكتالوا على الناس يستوفون وإذا كانوا هم أو وزنوه الكيل اللي هو measure. All days there was no scale, no weight. So I give you weight, I give you value in water, I give you value in honey. So when they was measuring the weight, when they measured the people, the weight is they make the weight very high. When they sell the people, that's why they sort of try to so the weight and measure
वो बाल्टीमोर से छोटी बेटी ना पहले बाल्टीमोर छोटी से शादी होगी समुद्रों पार मेरी आवाज
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح